We're releasing now.
So Ahmad, hi.
Hi.
You
For Palestine.
I think the last time I saw you it was Sham's house.
Yeah, right. Last summer.
Yeah.
So this is still
Yes, straight down the stairs. And the next one. Okay. Yes, right. And the lights are on. Thank you.
More in the media, but it was a very black period of Middle Eastern history in Palestine. As the actual day of the Nakba memorial has already started, the time of Palestinian time 1849, following Maghrib or sunset prayer, we'll be asking you to join us in standing for a 2-minute silent reflection regarding the 750,000 people who experienced this catastrophe, and obviously the 13,000 who died as well. Many of whom are still, of those driven out, are still living in refugee camps with their dependents, stateless and waiting to be able to go home. Okay, so lastly, you'll find you will have probably seen on your chairs some information leaflets which you can take away with you if you wish, outlining the BDS, which is Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions of Israel campaign, which incidentally, contrary to what has been publicised in much of the media, is not anti-Semitic in the slightest. Many Jews, prominent Jews, support it fully, as well as basic details of how you can participate in this, plus some information about the Nakba itself and the right to return. There's a few ones going around. Also to note that there are we have here some Palestinian fair trade products on sale here at the back. And should you wish to purchase any of these, they're mostly from cooperative farmers in Palestine. If you wish to purchase any of them, there will be an opportunity immediately after the event. Okay, so I'll leave you now with...
He is born in 1927. And he insists he's from Al-Fallujah. He's born there, basically. Yeah. Before 1948,
واحدة أنا حترجم له بعد إذنك ثواني. قبل 48 كان الجيش البريطاني لو لقوا معنا أي سكينة صغيرة كانوا يحبحونا.
Okay. He says before 1948, the British army was obviously occupying the land, and he said if there was even the size of a small knife in the house, they would kill everybody because of that small knife.
تفضل كمل.
فاليهود دخلوا علينا كانوا يطلبوا طخ صغير كبير من كل طخ ويمشي.
Okay.
طخ عشوائي ما يوفروش لا صغير ولا كبير.
تمام خلينا نترجم بعد إذنك.
Okay. He says when the Zionist army came in, they were shooting basically everyone. They had no intention of stopping whether it was a child, an old person, or a woman. They were basically just randomly shooting anyone on sight.
كمل يا مختار.
فأنا كلهم صاروا طخ بالناس صاروا الناس ترشوا يجوا الناس يقاموا من هم مشكلين لأنه كانت بريطانيا لو معهم أي حاجة يحطوه في السجن.
الناس ما كان عندها إمكانية أنها تحارب لأنه كان خاطر من الجيش البريطاني لو مسكوا معهم أي حد يحبسوهم، فالناس ما عندها حيلة وصاروا يشربوا من القتل.
Can you repeat that again? Sometimes it's a bit difficult to. Yeah.
الناس ما عندها إمكانية أنها تحارب. لأن مثلا الصهاينة صاروا يقتلوا فيهم مع الخوف شربوا الناس صاروا يشربوا على كل مكان. يشربوا يهربوا.
Okay. Okay. They said the people had absolutely no intention of fighting, but yet on the side of the Zionist army, the people were just running away from. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the correct translation of what we said. Yeah.
تفضل كمل يا مختار.
كان قبل هناك أي جالسة اليهود بدأت تطلع على الكومبانية قال يا جماعة البريطانيين قالوا تعالوا بالله المطلوبين علينا بدنا نمرقهم، فراحوا مرقوهم من المطار من بلد البلد، وأجوا بعد اليهود دبابات ونسفوا البلدية وطفوا طخوا كل العالم.
جيد. كان في مساعدة من الجيش البريطاني للصهاينة.
There was some help from the British Army to the Zionist army. Yeah.
خططوا كيف يدخلوا على البلد من كل الاتجاهات.
Okay, and they planned to actually enter the country from every direction.
دخلوا في الدبابات من كل مكان وصاروا يقصفوا في البيوت وفي الناس.
They entered and they started bombing pretty much everything on site, including the houses, everything.
كمل يا مختار.
احنا ما وقت معناش سلاح، لحقناهم بالدقرين والكركات.
احنا ما كان عندنا سلاح فكرناهم بالأصل أي شيء حتى.
Okay. They said they had absolutely no arms, nothing to defend themselves with, so all they could, whatever they could find next to them, they used to defend themselves, including because they were protected by the British Army.
احكي لنا شوي عن الفلوجة، كيف كانت خضار حلوة فيها زرع، كيف كانت الناس عايشة؟
الفلوجة بلد كبيرة وكان يزرع القمح والشعير والحلبة والعدس.
Okay, so Fallujah was a very big land, and people used to plant wheat, lentils, and all sorts of dried.
يجوا علينا بريطانيا يقدروا قديش عند الواحد في حب، ياخذوا يعطوا عقد اكل الواحد وعقد دوابه والباقي ياخذوه 70 قرش القنطار 100 رطل.
Okay, they said he said that the British Army used to come into their lands and obviously see how much product they've actually produced, and then just leave them with literally just about enough to feed their families and their keep. Is that what you said? Yeah, keep. Yeah, basically, and then take pretty much everything else. Okay, they stopped us from exporting basically oranges, lemons, and things like that they produce.
عيد شوية بعد إذنك. بريطانيا منعت الحمضيات تتصدر عشان الناس ما تلاقي شيء. عشان شو؟ عشان الناس ما تلاقي شيء وتبيع حالها والناس صمدت وما باعت شيء.
Okay, they basically prevented them from exporting those so that they can force them out of their lands to basically give up. That people obviously stood their ground and said no, and they stayed on their land.
سامعينك.
فكنا احنا هناك في البلد نزرع وناكل ونجري من ارضنا ومبسوطين وتمام، لكن كانوا المهم نفس بريطانيا هي اللي حامل العهود.
Okay.
تعطيهم سلاح واحنا لو معنا مسكت باس يحبسونا.
Right. He said it was all the British Army that was trying this, so that because they were on the side of the Zionist army, so they used to take everything from us. But then we were happy. We just wanted to stay on our land, cultivate it, and then live off of it. He said there used to be a school, there used to be a council, a city hall. Right.
اسمه سوق البرين.
كان سوق البرين.
سوق اسمه سوق البرين.
Okay. He said there used to be a big market. I think the one that Imad mentioned at the beginning as well. It's called the Souk of Bahrain, which means the two lands, I think. And people used to come from all directions in Palestine to this big market.
كان يجوا من كل المدن الفلسطينية. هذا السوق اللي كان مشهور جدا. إحنا قبل احتلال منه.
Yeah, I did mention. Yeah.
إيش في شيء مميز بتتذكره أو حابب تحكي للي بيسمعوك يا مختار؟
إيش في شيء مميز تذكره؟ أنا الفلوجي كان زي ما تقول البلد. كان الفلوجي هي ولي اسمه الفلوجي.
الشيخ شهاب الدين الفلوجي.
ولما ضربوا اليهود يبقى الانتظار في نفس المكان ما يصورش.
طيب أنت لما طلعتوا منها كنتوا على أساس مفكرين ترجعوا يا مختار وكان معكم مفاتيح البيوت وكانت معكم الأوراق صحيح؟
أنا مفاتيح وكل حاجة.
Okay, Imad just asked his grandfather that you used to have the keys to your houses and the papers proving that you actually own your houses and your land. So did they try to take that stuff from you? Yeah, the keys and everything. The documents. Yeah. What did he say?
إيش حكيت بعد يا مختار نسمع.
احنا أراضينا وبدنا مالنا وبدنا كل شيءنا.
إحنا حابين نرجع لأرضنا.
He said, people, I want to go back to my land. I want to go back to my house. It's my own. He said, we will never forget it. Our children will never forget it. Our grandchildren will never forget it. We have our documents to prove that we actually own the places. We're never going to give them up.
إمتى رحت يا مختار؟ إمتى؟
لقينا جميز قطع أبوي عود. أجا اليهود يقولوا ليش تقطع؟ قالوا شياتي. قالوا مع الصاب وقالوا معاي. قالوا بيعني إياها. قالوا لا. قالوا أنا باخذها من اليهود أما راحت عليك. قالوا ما بيعهاش.
هذا نقطة مهمة خليني أحكي له إياها بعد إذنك. إجا شخص يهودي يعني له وضع بالبلد يعني مسؤول معين. قالوا لأبوه هو كان صغير وأبوه كان رجل واعي.
Okay, somebody from the Zionist army, I guess. Somebody who's got a high rank, was responsible. Yeah, he came to Imad's grandfather when he was a child and his father, and he asked him, "Do you give us the papers of your land, and we will give you its worth in money?" Okay, they said absolutely no, we can never sell it. It is a land that we own and we will never sell it. Okay, so the Zionist responsible said, if you don't sell us your land, basically, we will kill you and take it anyway. So might as well take the money. Exactly. Do whatever you want. It is our land, and if we die on it, we will die on it.
تفضل يا مختار كمل.
حتى اليوم جواشين معانا جواشين أرضنا لما دخلت اليهود في الأول صارت تطخ النسوان طبعا تبطون الجبل وتسكت لهم وتطخ صغير كبير.
خلينا نترجم بس. كان يبعثوا.
Okay, he said he's just basically he keeps insisting because it's very clear that it's something that has hurt him a lot. He just keeps repeating that the Zionist army came in, it killed us all, it had made no difference between children, between women, between pregnant women. They said they killed anyone they can see.
Will you be prepared to answer any questions?
حابين يسألوك بعض الأسئلة. جاهز لتسمع السؤال وتجاوب يا مختار؟
Okay, he says you're welcome to ask me any question you want. If anybody wants any.
Does anyone want to ask any questions?
I may ask a question.
Yes, yes. Do so in our can translate.
Yeah, because I've seen the passion and upsetting. It's really upsetting. And
ثواني يا مختار إذا كان جمع الأسئلة في سؤالين ثلاثة نسألك إياهم وتجاوب عليهم. حط لهم علامة النصر.
One of my questions is they usually give the land back without the suffering of your family.
When they give the land?
When they give, the property back, the property and compensation for the damage. Would that be enough?
They don't want anything, they just want to come back to the land. That's the answer.
Yeah.
They don't want anything, they don't want houses, just they want to come back to the land.
They just want to come back to the land.
You want me to ask him?
Yeah, would that be,
في سؤال يا مختار. بعض الموجودين هي إيطالية الجنسية تسأل لو اليهود قالوا لكم ترجعوا على أراضيكم بس ما نعوضكم أي شيء الأرض وحدها كافية أنا كان جوابي بس الأرض تكفي.
But you have to, can you translate in English?
يعني ترجعوا من دون ما تاخذوا ممتلكاتكم وفلوسكم ما مشكلة المهم الأرض.
Basically, somebody asked whether the Zionist army offered you to return without returning anything that you owned before back to you. And he said, absolutely not. We want everything back and we want compensation for the 68 years that we lost. 68? Yes. Yeah, there was another question. He said, the question said, did any person from the British Army
when the Zionist officer came to see him, was there any British officer? He said about a high-ranking Zionist officer that wanted the land. Did any British officer also buy it?
السؤال بيسألوك مختار لما إجاك الضابط اليهودي الصهيوني يقول لك إنه يأخذوا الأرض هل كانوا يهود فقط ولا كان معهم ضباط إنجليز؟
معهم إنجليز كلهم ما لهم الإنجليز كمان وهو بيسلحوه.
خليني أشرح لهم تمام.
He said it was the Zionist general and behind the British armies they protect them always and everywhere else.
But they weren't actually their present.
No, they were present.
But they were present. Okay. So that's your answer? Yes. The other question is, could he sort of tell us, obviously it was a very upsetting time, and how did it affect the health of him, his wife, and his children, having to be driven out like that, and actually experiencing all that? What long-term health problems did that give him?
ساعدني بالترجمة. إيش كانت التأثيرات الجانبية على اللي صار على صحته وصحة أهله وعائلته؟
Yes.
هذا السؤال.
لما أخذوا
مختار السؤال اللي بيسألوك إياه الآن يعني كيف كانت نفسيتكم وكيف كنتوا بعد اللي صاروا هجروكوا على يعني إيش كانت حالتك وحالة زوجتك وأهلك وكيف لما هاجرت وشو صار معك؟
يعني في أفضل من هيك حالة الواحد دش وطنه ويظل داشن أيام لهذا يتقدم تحت الصدقات. رونا في الشوارع أقول لك في خيمة 4 عيال كنا ننام. أولا خيمة 4 عيال.
Yeah, he said there's nothing worse than this. If somebody drives you out of your house, drives you out of your land, does you out of your mother country basically, and says how would you feel if somebody does that to you?
يعني ما كناش مصدقين بعد هذا في أشهر نحن كنا بحلم.
Yeah, he said even after a few months we just still couldn't believe that somebody had actually done this to us, that we were actually driven out, and we've been stuffed in tents with so many people in a single tent.
There's another question.
Yes. Could he actually describe how they actually got out. Did they have vehicles? Did they have to go on foot? Did they have to carry everything with them? Obviously, they were being driven out because they would be killed otherwise. But could you sort of just describe the process, just grabbing what they had and taking it?
حاول اشرح ذلك.
اوكي قصدك يعني لما اخذوا
نشخص الحالة
لما مشوا يمكن 20 يعني من بيوتهم خلوهم ياخذوا معهم اشياء ولا ما خلوهم ياخذوا شيء ولا كيف راحوا بالسيارة؟
السؤال مختار لما هجروكوا الصهاينة هل سمحوا لكم تاخذوا اغراضكم ولا طردوكم من دون شيء وطلعتوا؟
He said that they were driven out pretty much naked.
سرقوه كله.
They said they took everything. They took everything that was in the house, everything that we owned. We were left with nothing. They were basically thieves. He said they took everything that we owned.
Is another question?
Yes.
في بعض سؤال يا مختار معلش سامحنا تعبناك ها. الله يعطيك الصحة.
I'm happy to answer. You haven't tired. He asked him whether he tired him with so many questions. He said, I'm happy to answer. Don't worry about it. So he said, my God gives you the length in your life, basically. He's 90 years old, by the way.
Oh, bless him.
My question is does the IDF on the Nakba commemoration, are there extra, do they clamp down on any kind of commitment? Are the Palestinians able to commemorate the Nakba in the occupied territories without the IDF interfering?
الجيش الإسرائيلي يمنحهم إنهم يعني يذكروا النكبة في غزة ولا يعني يذكروا أيوة يعني يعملوا إيفنت في غزة مثلا.
There isn't Israeli army in Gaza. There's a free. There's a strip. You mean inside
the Palestinians from remembering the Nakba openly?
But where? Do you mean inside Gaza?
Inside Gaza. Inside, yeah.
Also anywhere.
In Gaza, anywhere.
Are they allowed to?
Okay.
Do you understand my question?
I understand. But in Gaza, Gaza Free, there isn't the least army of anything. But in West Bank, maybe, or in Palestine. Yeah. That's because he's from Gaza.
You mean the army don't go into Gaza?
No. Just when there was a war and they killed people, yes. But they're not.
Not at the time.
I don't understand.
Yeah. My next question. Okay. The next question is actually how did people in Fallujah actually hear about what was happening in the country? Did they have radio? Obviously not television, but did they have radio? Was their news actually broadcast of what was happening in Palestine to them, or was it came from markets or?
At the time.
Yes, at the time.
مختار في سؤال تسألوه الجماعة إنه في 48 كيف كنتوا تعرفوا الأخبار اللي بتصير في فلسطين؟ كان في جرايد أو راديو أو تلفزيونات؟
في راديوات وجرايد تيجي بس الغطوا عادي. هم أول ما عدوا زي شهير البياع من كل بلد واحد وصاروا هم عندنا المجلس الأمن والدول الغربية محترمين واصحاب الارض يقولوا عننا ارهابيين. انقلبت الدنيا صاحب الارض ارهاب واللي سرق الارض محترم.
يقول لك الانسان في جرايد وراديو لكن كانوا يغطوا عليها وجوا من كل خسرة أغنية زي ما نقول يعني من كل بلاد العالم فعندهم خبث مش طبيعي اللي يغطوا ويعرفوا كيف يسيطروا على هذا الشيء ويفرجوا العالم الخارجي إنه هم أصحاب الحق وإحنا أصحاب الباطل.
Mukhtar basically said that there were newspapers at the time, but everything was covered up so that news of what had happened did not come out and go anywhere far. He said what Israel does in its Zionist plan is the use of whatever is outside of Palestine, basically the media, to twist the perception, basically making the thieves look like the ones with the right to actually own the place. And this is what has been done ever since the start of this.
Does he have any memories of the 67 war? Because I'm assuming at the time that Gaza was under mandate for Egypt originally, when Jordan had it for a couple of years. So does he have himself memories of 67 war?
في سؤال يا مختار، عندك أي معلومات أو يعني إيش تتذكر من حرب 1967؟ كنت في غزة أنت صحيح؟ يعني عندك إيش الذاكرة في الحرب هذه أو إيش كانت الأمور؟ اللي شرب اللي انقتل. لا في اعلام ولا في شيء ولا حاجه، يصفون على الخطاب. قتل اللي شرب. وبعدين لما اجوا هنا حطوا علامات عراقيه، علامات مصريه، علامات سوريه، يقولوا هذول عارفين، وبعدين لما خدوا عليهم طبوا فينا طب، صفون على الخطاب.
Okay. During the 67 war, they said when they came in, they basically put everybody against the wall. It didn't matter if you were a Syrian, it didn't matter if you were Palestinian, it didn't matter if you were any nationality, and it was just fired and fired and fired. Whoever died, died, and whoever escaped, escaped. Any more questions? Yeah, she's giving
just the end of the previous question, we got that they took all the belongings from the people, and then how did the people flee? Was it just by foot or by motorized transport? Or
السؤال يا مختار، بحال ما لما طلعتوا من فلوجة، لما يعني اجبرتوا تطلع من فلوجة، طلعتوا على أقدام مشي ولا بالسيارات ولا؟
مشي، دشرنا حلالنا، دشرنا غنمنا، كل ولا حاجة.
ضليتوا تمشوا مشي.
الحلال والبقر كله عندنا. مشي عندنا.
He said we left our sheep behind, we left our land behind, and we just walked and walked and walked. He said the uncle of Mukhtar was killed and then he was thrown into Hebron, is that correct? Yes, he was thrown into Hebron. This has happened, yeah.
I would like to have another question.
Another question?
Yeah. When they were kick them out and shoot them and whatever they were doing, the Israeli told them they can come back one day?
لما مختار في سؤال، لما قتلوا اللي قتلوا وشردوا اللي شردوا، هل اليهود قالوا لكم انتم حترجعوا يوم من الايام؟ اليهود يعني قالوا لكم مثلا انتم روحوا وبعدين حنرجعكم؟
He said absolutely not. They never said or offered for us to come back. He said somebody who takes your stuff and kicks you out, why would they ask you to come back?
اللي كان يشرب القتل الفلسطيني يعني له حياة بس مش هو الحمد لله نحن نجينا من القتل.
Exactly. What he says is basically if you escape death, then you've basically got something because you're still alive. And that's what it meant for them back then. And I have to point out that every time a man tries and asks Mukhtar a question, you always say, Tfaddal, which means you're welcome, Tfaddal, please, you're welcome, please ask, you're welcome, please ask. You can see that eagerness in his voice every time he tries to ask a question. Another one?
Initially there was 3,000 people killed when they first came into Fallujah. And a question has been asked, what happened to their bodies? Were they able, given time to bury them? Were they? Did they end up in a mass grave, or did they just fall as they lay?
نختار السؤال. لما كانوا يقتلوا الناس يعني كنتوا تدفنوهم او هم كانوا يدفنوهم ولا كنتوا يعني يرموهم كلهم؟ وين ما صح فرصه يدفنوهم ما كانش عندهم فرصه.
He said there was no. He said we couldn't do anything. He said even our belongings we couldn't take them with us. And he said whenever we found the opportunity to perhaps bury someone, we buried them. But otherwise, everybody was just left behind.
It's a very simple question, actually. Who did your grandfather hold responsible for the death of the 3,000? 3,000 when they went in. Yeah. Who is he feels
يا مختار في سؤال بسيط هيك هو السؤال مضحك بس مش مشكلة يعني احنا بنسأل واحنا بنسألك مين المسؤول عن قتل نص أهل الفلوجة؟ مين المسؤول الأول؟ الصهاينة الهجنة
Okay, he says the blame lies on two. First, the British army who helped the Zionists, and then the Israeli army after them. Haganah. The Haganah?
Yeah.
Haganah. Good word, yeah. Haganah.
Another question.
Any question, please?
جربنا نخلص يا مختار بس
when all the people were killed, the 3,000 anyway, were there any Jewish, Palestinian, Arabic Jewish Palestinians who were killed as well amongst the dead?
السؤال مختار في ال3,000 اللي قتلوا في الفلوجة كان منهم يهود عرب قتلوا ولا كلهم عرب مسلمين اللي قتلوا؟ لا كلهم عرب.
Okay, literally translating what he said. He said there were no Jews in the Fallujah at the time when they killed 3,000. It was mostly Arabs. We had no weapons. We had nothing. What's the last translation? He said Israel is Israel, basically, is in its definition terrorism.
When the actual Zionist militia, the Haganah, went in and did what they did, were there any other troops? I think the lady is thinking of British troops or any other nationalities involved. That's the first one, and I've got two more.
Who's other group involved?
Yes, in the actual going in to drive them out.
السؤال مختار إنه هل كان هناك مجموعات أخرى غير الهجمة الصهيونية؟ يعني كانوا مثلا الإنجليز متورطين مع الصهاينة في هذه الحرب؟ يعني زي الهجمة الصهيونية والمجموعات الإنجليزية هذه اللي أنتم تعرفونها. He said the Haganah group first. He said the Haganah group first involved in that, who killed the 3,000. And there's other groups, some of them with the British Army.
First, there's a sort of general question for your grandfather. How does it feel to be in Gaza? What does it feel like?
السؤال يا مختار شوية حساس. كيف إحساسك إنه أنت عايش في غزة؟
He said we're very tired, our children are thrown and we are being thrown in the streets. We are under a blockade for more than 10 years. He said electricity comes in by the drop, so does the water, so does the food. Okay, he says they twist people's opinion outside of Gaza to paint us as terrorists and them as the saviors, or actually the angels. Okay, is that what it is?
I want him to understand that we will do everything we can to be in solidarity with him. We understand the suffering that he and his family have gone through, and we are not going to forget what he says.
بعض الأشخاص هان بيحبوا يعني يواسوك ويقولوا لكم إنه نحن عارفين الصحيح وعارفين إنه أنتم على حق وإحنا دائما على تضامن معكم. يعني هي بعض الأشخاص إنه بيقولوا لك نحن متضامنين معكم أيدينكم وعارفين الصحيح. يعني هذا بنرجع نقول لهم شكرا لكم بالنهاية يعني. Another question?
No, I think the questions are done now. And thank him very much for his time. It was a pleasure to hear him. And we will go to the other Skype.
نشكر اللي قاعدين شكرا جزيلا وسبب العلة اللي هي بريطانيا. شرم حرم بدي أنا بريطانيا.
Okay. Yeah, he says, we thank you so much for your support, and we just would like to tell you that the old British government is the reason of what's happened to us today, and it means a lot to them, I guess, that you guys are here to support them and are in solidarity with them.
نقول للمجموعين واللي بيدونا شكرا لهم وشكرا لكل بريطاني مؤيد لقضيتنا. هيك حكى واحد شخص جنبي.
Okay, and someone else next to Mukhtar also said that thank you so much for all your support, and it means a lot to us that somebody from Britain is actually
supporting us.
Are actually supporting us and supporting our cause.
طيب احنا حابين يعني من الجميع بيقولوا لك شكرا كثير. الله يعطيك طول العمر. وهيك احنا خلصنا الأسئلة. وبس بدنا نقول لك الله يعطيك العافية. شكرا كثير لك. فلسطين حرة إن شاء الله.
He just said to me, thank you very much for answering our questions. May God give you the blessing in your life and whatnot.
And please tell him we have our protection.
شكرا كثير شكرا. منصورين إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم.
Would get them listening to you. So I'm going to repeat what you say into my microphone so they can actually hear you. Okay? So.
Okay. So, is there a problem with the microphone?
No, there's a problem with the loudspeaker.
No, it's...
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Sister, I would like, basically, before speaking about the memory of my family that has been repeated over and over, I would just like to speak a little bit about how do I feel myself.
That's fine.
Okay. Basically, I remember, like, my dad hardly told me anything about Palestine. Because he himself was born, despite the fact that he was born in Jaffa, he was only 1 year old when they left. And they left to Tulkarem in the West Bank. They stayed there for 4 or 5 years. Then again, they were exiled to Jordan. Not that my father is not patriotic or he doesn't love Palestine or where he came from. Just like many, they were really preoccupied in sustaining their livelihoods, earning, making ends meet, and so on and so forth. So this was again like a systematic, in a way, process in exile or in neighboring countries at least, to making earning income is hard. So people, they would keep running behind their income, and they will forget about their kind of main cause or main issues. However, I remember, if I recall myself, growing up, I was constantly kind of asking for sense of belonging. Where do I belong? What am I really? Am I British? I am Palestinian? Am I Jordanian? You know, all those conflicting questions, like, and the psyche of it. Since that I came to the UK, obviously I lived in Bristol for many years. I recognize some of the audience, and perhaps some of you recognize me as well. I remember once arranging a trip to Europe with my kind of British European friends, and coming back to London, everyone started to, oh, how nice to be back home, how nice to be back home, how nice to be back home. So this kind of, I realized that, oh my God, I was deprived of even repeating such a phrase or rhetoric. Until now, today I'm 36 years old. I only say I'm going to London, I'm going to Jordan, I'm going here, I'm going there. So we are deprived, first of all, from saying I'm going home. And this is very important. It's absolutely vital for one's well-being, for being stable and balanced. When you speak with others, there's always something missing. Not that it is a disorder or something, but you do feel it. You do feel it. And in fact, like prior to 1948, this was, I don't want to turn this into a political lecture, this was a common problem between Jews themselves around the world. For example, in New York, all communities like the Irish, like the Italian, they will chant the patria and the hometown, and, you know, when they're gonna go back to their hometown. And the Jews then were deprived of such a privilege to have a homeland. So basically, the expense of establishing their homeland was paid on the expense of depriving us from a homeland. And this is extremely important to understand about the Nakba. That basically you can't hide the sun. And millions of people live all over the globe now without a country because their country is being occupied. And we are driven into all this politics, religious, economic, each strand justify it the way they see it. But the fact is that that we live without a homeland. On the personal side, what I've been hearing since the childhood, that specifically for our family, the tragedy was as much as other families. Not because we are special, only because my family were kind of a wealthy family in Palestine. And before they leave, they kind of even, perhaps, sorry to say it, they kind of, in a way, exercised feudalism. They had lands, they had lots of things. And when they left, they were forced to leave, expelled, immediately had nothing. And this is again kind of, they used to kind of conduct a certain level of certain standards of life that they weren't available anymore. The only perhaps I would say positive side that helped them at the time, that a few of them were educated. And when I say educated before 1948, they were kind of Western universities graduate. One of my uncles, he graduated from the Sorbonne, for example. Another one from another European countries. And that's kind of interpret what I mean by wealthy then. So when they came to neighboring countries, some of them were able to kind of establish those kind of, those kind of newborn countries like Jordan. For example, the population of Jordan increased by 350 folds within a year. And that's precisely because of Nakba. I myself came back from Palestine after a visit, like since 2-3 days ago. And I can see the situation there. It's sometimes, I don't know, it's really difficult to understand, really difficult to comprehend. Like tomorrow on the 15th, now the entire West Bank is closed. It's closed by the checkpoints and additional checkpoints, so no one can enter and disturb the celebrations that they will spend millions of pounds and American dollars on fireworks. Tel Aviv tomorrow and all the other coastal and other cities will be blooming with fireworks, celebrating their success and the establishment of their homeland, of their Jewish states, despite that the majority of people who live in Israel are secular. I myself had many conversations this trip with Israelis, and they kind of, not all Israelis basically are the same, that they want just a zero-sum game, either us or them, we or them. They don't even use this language. Some of them, they believe that it's our right to go back and to live together as we were living before 1948, where Jewish ladies and Muslim ladies and Christian ladies used to babysit each other's children. And this is not an exaggeration. It's something used to happen. But the politics again is just is not helping. What's happening in the region is not helping. You can't talk about the Nakba without talking about if I may be a representation of people who live in exile, but a privileged one. I'm not kind of the example that you see and you will kind of pay sympathy or empathy to, because there is much cases are worse off than myself. At least I could access it. I happily accepted to visit it as a tourist, visiting my own country as a tourist. And it's subjected to an eclectic decision maker who one time will let you in, other time will deny you entry, other time will arrest you full stop. and so on and so forth. So we live really in a precarious situation where wherever we go, we face issues. Now in Jordan, despite that Jordan being a country that has given Palestinians the most in terms of rights and the duties towards the state, still you can feel it that you are not 100% a first-class citizen. I think it's fair to say that even we are like third or fourth class citizen. I don't like to class people or to grade them or put them or rank them. Not at all. But this is the situation. My brother, before going to university, he wanted to study political science. And he said, I wanted to work with the government. So simply, my mother told him, what for? There's no jobs for you. You are from Palestinian origin in here. So go business, go something that the Gulf may accept you, or you will find yourself a lucrative job in the future. So even like the sense of agency is about being able to choose and to kind of control your choice or have access to resources. And simply Palestinians, for example, in Lebanon, are deprived of doing tens of professions, some of which, like doctors, engineers, and I don't want just to recall any, that's the one that I'm sure about. I don't want just to recall any profession from my mind, but I know this is from a fact that has been told. Even in the West Bank, I'm surprised as well to hear people that they live 5 or 10 kilometers from their origin village. They consider themselves as refugees. I said, guys, come on, you are silly. If you take your car or you have a walk, you can reach your village. Why would you call yourself a refugee? For example, living in historic Palestine or in the West Bank. Like a West Bank or someone living in Nablus and they are originally from Haifa, they would consider themselves a refugee. Or even less worse, someone who's living in Jerusalem with almost accessible way to Jaffa, they still call themselves refugees. And what about the people that they live, for example, in Gaza, the people that they live in Jordan, the people that they live where they don't even dream about conducting a prayer in Al-Aqsa Mosque? One of the main codes in Muslim prayers that we pray in Al-Aqsa at least once before death. One time before death. Just so can we be in touch with this privilege. Similar thing to apply to Christian, that they would actually the Christian heritage in Jerusalem is much more larger than the Muslim heritage in Jerusalem, for example. And if you go there, you will find much more churches from all strands, like the Russian Church, the Catholic, the Orthodox in Jerusalem. So this city has been really holy for all religions to enjoy, as they say in Palestine. Haifa works, Tel Aviv plays, and Jerusalem prays. So they use it a lot for the reason that the Holy Spirit in the city of Jerusalem is happening. And just let me perhaps end on a note that what I really thought is alarming in Palestine now, there's 2 million, almost 1,800,000. They are Arab Palestinians that they hold Israeli passport. They call them Arab 48. Since 2003 until today, and that's something like only 12 years, almost 2,000 people died. Those people, they didn't die defending the Palestinian cause, or they didn't die by Jewish or Israeli assassinators. They died by Palestinians' hand. It's internal killing over money, over drugs, over honor. So honor killing is there, something everyone defines honor in their own ways. And so basically what happened, the systematic settler colonialism in Palestine and its policies starts to bear its fruit now. Such people, with all the respect to the majority of them, because no one can take away from them their being patriotic, being decent people, and care about the cause than many of us. But Israel made kind of assimilate them to the way that they took them from the bigger cause to kind of make them busy with those issues. 90% of them, according to statistics I just heard there, are indebted to the banks, and they have to pay monthly payments with very high interest rates. So the circle of their life are just paying back to the banks with interest, arguing about money and honor and drugs, and their internal conflict. You will find those problems less apparent in the West Bank, and almost they didn't exist, for example, in the Gaza Strip, because they look at the bigger issue of the homeland being occupied, and we need a solution. And this takes us back to what we are commemorating today of Nakba, of needing to have a homeland, a sense of belonging, where we can legally and rightfully access and live in and enjoy and make our children now and in the future do it, instead of just living in people's countries forever and, I don't know, just, without an expiry date. We're just living in people's countries. And I just have, honestly, to thank all the countries that has been hosting us for the last 68 years. And I don't know, that in Arab cultures we say, we will come to us for 3 days, not for 68 years. And we are their country for that long. So thank you very much. And if you have any question I may answer, I will be
Yes, and can you tell us a little bit about your maybe other relatives? Not because your father didn't speak much about leaving Jaffa, so because he was only a baby, wasn't he, when he left? So can you tell us just a little bit more about what you have heard from your relatives about having to leave Jaffa? And while you're doing that, I'm going to put the microphone back to your microphone, and then I'm going to go and find people's questions for you, okay?
Basically, I remember my grandmother, who was all the time talking about Jaffa and how close it was to the city of Tel Aviv, and what they used to do on the Sundays and on the summer vacation. And there's a place there, it used to call Rubin. So they would go with the entire family, the entire village, to Rubin to enjoy their summer with the kids. They would kind of pack their camels with all their foods, all their kind of what they need to take there. And my mother told me that when she was 13, 14 years old, they kind of managed to go from Jordan and visit the village that her father basically grew up there and lived when he was a man. And he was crying like a child in every step he tread there. And even they went back to their kind of, as I said, they had many, many homes. That they went back to maybe one or two kind of still existing homes, and they were Jewish families in them. And this lady just, she knew that he's the owner of this house, or his parents were, but she wouldn't allow him, and she said she would call the police for him. And he just left, he just left having this all kind of agony. This is one of the things that we can remember. The language itself that he spoke, the special Palestinian dialect, the special Palestinian words. Now in Palestine, even if you go honestly from 5 kilometers to another 5 kilometers, you will hear a different dialect. If you go to another village, yet another dialect. So this diversity, you can see that at least this diversity, the harmony with the land, still exists until today. And really you feel the imported citizen from Ethiopia, from Russia, from Poland, they are alien to the land. They don't know the names of the flowers, the names of the herbs, that they come out, when they come out, what they are used for. On the contrary, in Palestine, those things are kind of transferred generation to generation. They know exactly what they are for. Just those things. Sometimes leave the politics, the religion, everything. There is stuff that makes sense and does not make sense. But it's a question of power. And at the moment, they have the power.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, but I'm going to thank him for sharing all this with us.
Yeah, okay. If no one has any questions, then I'll let him go. Yes, my brother, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And no one has questions, then thinking very deeply about what you do. And we'll be in touch. And you take care.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is I think we can't really contact the third person. I think we've all been on a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and I think what Yassan was telling us actually brings us up to date with where we are today, because you're talking about generations that have not experienced themselves, maybe not. His father was 1 year old, but still live and breathe their existence being taken away from them in a certain way, and don't actually feel home anywhere. And this is something which, as he said, Jews in different parts of the world felt too. So it's something which is very shared, and that's something that myself, I have a city and I really, I find that very moving, and it's something I won't forget. I'm going to hand you over to Helen. We've heard an awful lot, we talked a lot, so now you've had enough of me, thank you, and I'm going to pass you over to Helen.
Okay, we've all got a lot to absorb there, as Sheila said. So we'd like to ask you to spend a little time reflecting on what you've heard this evening. And then we're going to move, after we've done that, we're going to move into the final part of the evening, which I think Sheila will lead. So what we'd like you to do, because when we run an event at the museum, as you can see, there are about maybe 40 people here. And you've noticed that we filmed the event because we try and pass our message on beyond the event today. So I'd like to ask you to talk with your neighbour or twos or threes as you like to organise and discuss in your small group what is the message that you're taking away tonight. So there might be just one thing that's really hit home for you and you want to take away. And I want you to say also in your small group, who are you going to tell about what you've heard tonight? And that way we know that we're having a bit more impact than just our gathering tonight. And I'll pass around through you. My middle name is Post-it. I'll pass around with my Post-it notes. I've got some pens. And if you would like to write down the message that you take away from tonight or something that you've learned, then you could put the Post-it notes on the tables where the water is, if you want. You don't have to, but if you want. And before I lose your attention, I just want to remind everybody about a book. It's called The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. It's by Ilan Pape. He's actually the patron of the Palestine Museum, and he is an Israeli historian, and he works at Exeter University. He's spoken at the museum last year. We hope he'll come back again. But I thoroughly recommend reading this extraordinarily detailed account of how the Nakba happened, the detailed planning and organisation. This was a systematic activity. It wasn't a haphazard, guerrilla fighting. It was systematic and brutal. So do read this book. So we've got about 5 minutes or so for this activity, 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll go to the closing activity. So what is the message you take away? Who are you going to tell?
So we're coming close to the end of the evening now. I'll do a few thank yous afterwards as well. But I'm sure we've all been moved by, especially the Skypes that we had to Gaza and to Jordan. And I was really pleased to see everyone taking part in the exercise just there. Everyone's getting together and having a conversation about it and filling in the post-it notes. So, well done to everybody. We've had a chance to have a little think about what we've heard. And if we're ready to do the lights, what we're going to do now is we're going to do 2 minutes of silent reflection about what we've heard and what we think about what's going on for the Palestinians and what happens during a Nakba. So for those people who are able to stand, I'd like to ask you all to stand up, and then we'll do 2 minutes of silent reflection, please. Thank you, everybody. That's 2 minutes. Can we have the lights back on? Thanks, everyone. You can sit down now. Well, yeah, we've come to the end of the evening now. So it just sort of remains to say thank you very much for coming. I think it's been a really beautiful event. Thank you to all the volunteers who've helped set this event up and to run it on the night as well. Special thanks to Imad and Ali and to our Palestinian friends over in Palestine and Jordan. We've got, you can hang around for a little bit. We've got loads of Palestinian goods for sale at the back, olive oil, mineral dates, za'atar, soap, lots of different things, t-shirts to buy. As I think we mentioned at the beginning, we're all volunteers here and we're run entirely on donations. So if any of you are flush and want to splash some cash our way, that would be really appreciated. There's email, if you're not on our email list, you can put your name down on the email list at the back there, and there are regular updates by the PSC about what's going on in Bristol and the surrounding areas about Palestine. And also we've got one for the museum as well, so we can let you know about the events that we're having here. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for coming.